This is actually my third attempt at making this video. All right. I'm trying to go in here with a scalpel. And I'm trying to just focus on the key points without, going into the usual diatribes that I go into where I get all long-winded and all that. Okay, first things first. Kevin Samuels show that he recently did about single mothers. My first point of concern is, why is it that I get the sense when it comes to these women that call on the show that they are focused on childless men? Right? Why is it y'all freak out when childless men say that they're not interested in dating single mothers? Why aren't y'all focused on men who already have children? Especially when you have women out here screaming that women are not their mistakes. Okay, if you're not your mistake, what is what is a man with a child? Is he not his mistake? Right? Since women want to, push that sort of idea out here. Why aren't y'all focused on these sort of, high value men with children? Oh, I guess he's not high value because he has children. He has other financial obligations, right? First off, if we're talking about high value men, and this is one of the reasons why, this is why you don't equalize shit, because a high value man, who can take care of all the people around him, the fact that he has multiple households that he's taking care of, or children he's providing for, I don't want to say that it's irrelevant, but I'm saying if he can cover it, he can cover it. There are plenty of women who go out here and they get with, men who already have children, because those men are providing the lifestyle that they want or that they're willing to accept. This doesn't play out in the opposite direction. A man does not gain anything by going out here and getting with a woman with children. Where a woman who is childless, like you see with all of Future's baby mamas, they're getting something out of it monetarily, whether it's a lifestyle or whether it's checks in the mail or whatever. They're because that man has resources, they're willing, to exchange their wombs for, whatever resources are coming their way. That's what women determine. That's not evil patriarchy. Men don't determine that. If all women said we're not dealing with men that have kids, then that would be the end of that. But men we don't benefit from going out here and getting with women that have somebody else's children. Aside from all the other stuff that, Kevin covered, and I also have covered, like when it comes to, how your reputation that you're trying to maintain and how you're going to be viewed in the, the high value circles that you roll. Whether it's the woman that has a child or whether it's the woman, with a body filled with tattoos. It makes you look like you either have low self-esteem, or you can't get the women that you want, or that you're just, scraping at the bottom of the barrel, or that you're, this sex hound. It's not a good look. It is not a good look. If you got the pick of the litter and you can get with all these women, why aren't you getting with the women that are in your category? That is the question. Right. But I'm saying it goes back to the whole, the Sean Connery and getting with a 30-year-old woman, because it was this woman who was complaining about, Sean Connery's getting with 30-year-old women, so why aren't 30-year-old men getting with 70-year-old women? Right. And I mean, I think he was like 70 at the time, in his late 70s. And it's like, again, if Sean Connery didn't have millions of dollars, no 30-year-old woman would be dealing with Sean Connery. Plain and simple. Men who are in their 50s, like Brad Pitt, who are able to date 29-year-olds, is because they have resources. Women determine that. Women determine, what they're, going to or willing to deal with. Men don't determine that. Women determine that. Because it's about what they're willing to accept. It don't matter what a multi-millionaire man wants. If no young women are willing to deal with him, that ends that process. You see, but so those two things can't be equalized. I know women always try to do it, but it can't be equalized. Again, men are socialized to share their wealth and resources with women and children. Women are not socialized to share their wealth and resources with men. doesn't work in the opposite direction. A woman, and you hear it from all these women that call in Kevin's show, they want to be stay-at-home moms. They got somebody else's kid, but they want to be a stay-at-home mom. They want a high-value man. None of these women are coming in and talk about, I have a kid and I'm willing to go and take care of a man if he gets with me in my program. Like, and the women coming on there talking like that. They all want hypergamy and to the fullest. They all want to date up. And like I said, with this, I'm like, why aren't y'all talking about men with children already? Why do you always go to childless men? And see, I already know the bullshit that exists. The bullshit is nobody wants to deal with anybody else's kids. Childless men start saying, hey, I'm not interested in single mothers. Single mothers start freaking the fuck out. And I'm like, why are you freaking out? And this is one of the things that I wish Kevin would say on the show. I'm like, dude, he goes with this, they're just doomed. They're doomed. I'm like, yeah, with childless men, you're doomed. But there's a whole other category of men that you can date, men with children. But see, the reality is a lot of these women don't want to deal with that. They want to go back to acting like they're single, which is insane, which they're not. They're in a different category now. And they want to act like, they're entitled to, childless men. I'm like, what makes you think that you're entitled to a childless man? Hell, you didn't value childless men when you were childless. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were just out here just, doing whatever. Now all of a sudden you recognize, that you want, this sort of, population of that comes from the EL camp and all that, and operates in patriarchy and has a decent corporate job and everything. Yeah, because you got responsibilities now. You got mouths to feed now. You can't go out there and just deal, with some dude, living in his mama's house or whatever. You can't date those dudes. So now you want a dude that's established, and somehow these women think that they're entitled to it. They think they're on par with childless women, which is insane. That shit is insane. But you had, or actually, let me back up, because I know why a lot of these women don't get some of this stuff, and it's because they didn't have fathers in their lives, or if they had a stepfather in their life, the stepfather's not going to tell you the truth. Okay, he's dating your mother, who was a single mom. So he can't sit there and openly shit on single mothers and tell you how he really feels about them when he's with your mother. That's not going to happen. The only man that can actually tell a woman how men really feel about single mothers are essentially her male peers and her father. That's it, her biological father. If you got a stepdaddy, your stepdaddy ain't going to tell you how these young childless men out here really feel about single mothers, because he can't, because he's with your mother. On top of the fact that, like I said before, a lot of those men, they got their own insecurities. If you think that man would choose, your mother with you over meeting your mother before she had a kid, you're sadly mistaken. You're sadly mistaken. Men will always choose the childless option over, the single mother situation, unless they're insecure, low self-esteem, or lack game, or can't get the woman that they want, the woman that they actually want. But that's not an ideal. No young man grows up fantasizing about going out here and linking up with a single mother. You know what I'm saying? No man has a dream and fantasizes about being in some supercar or some exotic car or luxury car with the child seat of a child that is not his in the back. That's not a part of the fantasy. And so it's like, these women need to hear that. Now, getting on with the Kevin Samuels show, I wish Kevin would have more patience. Karazin called his show one time, and I thought this was going to be good, and he rushed her off the show, and I'm like, you're talking to the one, rushed her off of the show. and from what I hear, she don't want to come back and do the show, and I'm pretty sure, I know the voices that are in her ear, and I'm like, yeah, because Kevin gonna eat you for lunch. With this with the nonsense that these women, go online and spew. But this is the truth. There's nothing evil or malicious about it. This is the goddamn truth. So anyway, Kevin had this 49-year-old woman on the show, that she thought she couldn't have kids. She had a kid at 43, and her husband or her partner died a year later, right? Which is tragic. It's sad, we can say that. But anyway, she wanted to make it a point to let Kevin know and to tell the men on the show that, not all single mothers are the same, which is a true statement. A woman whose husband died in the Iraq war versus a woman who's just a baby mama because she was out here, riding the cock carousel with street dudes or pookies or whatever, or non-high quality men. Those are different. And yes, childless men do recognize that, and that these women are in a different category. However, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, ultimately, it does not matter because the cost is still the same. I mean, this goes back to the joke that Cap and I used to talk about, you might as well get you a beautiful woman. Why? Because ugly women don't cost any less. Ugly women cost the same. You're not, if you think that you're going to be able to go out here and be with an unattractive woman or a woman that you deem unattractive and pay less and have her still be with you, that's not going to happen. You can try, but it's not going to happen. Okay. It's not like when you go to a restaurant, with an unattractive woman, the waiter comes up and says, "Oh, sir, I see you're with an unattractive woman. Let me give you a 30% discount." Like, no, it cost you the same. That same, $64 plate that you got, but, that she got and you got and that you're paying for, it costs the same. You don't get a discount because the woman is unattractive. Okay? And you don't get a discount because, "Oh, sir, I recognize that you're playing stepdad to children that are not biologically yours. Let me give you a 15% discount." You don't get a discount. Okay, so if anything, a woman with a child, it costs you more. So you're actually being penalized for, a situation that you did not create and is not your responsibility. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. And the other thing is like one of the reasons why a lot of men got to be so nasty about it is because, like, back in the day, if it was like a one woman here or one woman there, like if you watch movies like A Color Purple that was supposed to take place, in the 1930s or something like that. If you look at The Color Purple, right, everybody was rushing and trying to get married. You didn't have this whole situation of baby mamas and all that other stuff, right? And again, going back to, men share their wealth with women, which is why Danny Glover was able to go and try to get Celie when he really wanted the other woman. I forget what the other woman's name is, but he wanted the other woman, but he didn't get her. You see, but now young men are tired of it. Everything is on the internet now. Everybody's exchanging ideas and conversations. Like single mothers have had a good 30, 40-year run of pulling their bullshit on men. And the young men, we've grown up seeing no-fault divorces, women taking a man's resources and all that other stuff. And men are like, man, this is a raw deal. Marriage is already questioned as a raw deal for men. Marriage to women who are childless, men are saying is a raw deal. And then you want to add a single mother to that equation that men are already recognizing is a raw deal? Nah. The court systems and all that will have to change. But even if that changes, as it pertains to the conversation about childless women, the ugly reality of raising, somebody else's kids. Not only that, raising unproductive men's kids. That really burns you up. And especially when it comes to black men. The way that, black men who are, ELs or productive and fall in that high value category are just culturally shit on because they don't represent street culture. And then many of these women who are single mothers had their children by dudes who are in the streets. And then we're the ELs and the high value men are supposed to come through and be your purse. They're supposed to come through and be your beta male provider. Like nah. The reality is men recognize now that they're suckers in that situation, and they're not willing to do it, and they're telling other men not to do it. That's why these women are freaking out anytime these childless men, because we're removing the hope that they could course correct and salvage this situation at a man's expense. I have to emphasize that, at a man's expense. So when Kev had that 49-year-old, instead of going directly to the 21 gun salute, he should have let her explain why does it matter that it's different. Okay, I acknowledge, a baby mama and a woman that is a divorcee or whatever, or for however she became a single mother, her spouse died. Yes, I acknowledge that it's different, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to a childless man. The cost is still the same. That's a point that Kevin should have driven home. Now, maybe he's done it on other shows, but that's a point that he should have driven home in real time with that woman who called in the show, as opposed to being so quick and eager to use his soundboard, and hit her with the 21 gun salute. You see. He had the woman who was on there who was crying, and because he was telling her, she was like, basically crying about what is she supposed to do, right? But again, instead of Kevin saying you're doomed, yes, with childless men, for the most part, you're doomed. But instead of Kevin saying that, why? I'm asking Kevin, why not direct these women to the category in which they belong and the category in which they should date, which are men who also have children, men who are single fathers? You know what I'm saying? It's like women kind of look at black men like black men across the board are all single fathers. It's weird. But I think it comes out of the fact that men tend not to get custody of their children, and women have custody. So that's another reason why there's a disparity and why men are fed up. Because when we're out here, if we deal with a single mother, you immediately are hit with the reality that she has kids. The way that these women try to equalize themselves with childless women is insane. I'm like, you don't even have the flexibility that they have. I can date a childless woman and say, hey, you want to go to the movies? Boom, she's ready to go. Hey, you want to go to the beach? Boom, she's ready to go. Hey, you want to go to the bar? Hey, boom, she's ready to go. I can immediately, do that. And it's nothing. You see what I'm saying? Immediately. But with a woman who has children, you got to get the babysitter. Oh, let me call my mom so I can drop the baby off over their grandparents' house or whatever, or their grandmother's house. You got to deal with all that type of stuff. It's inconvenience. You have freedom of movement. She doesn't have freedom of movement. And then these women think that they're so hellified, that any man would want to deal with that. Talk about over appraisal of pussy. Why not just deal with a woman that doesn't have any of that baggage, that can go out here and do that? And then what makes these women think that they can cut to the front of the line on these childless women? And many of the childless women, they sit there and they let these women think that. That's another thing that's irritating. I'm like, so you just gonna let her think that she can cut the line on you? You gonna let her think that? I'm like, that's crazy. And again, when we're talking about marriage, not about dating, these women go into this dating conversation. Let me tell you something, ladies. Men will fuck single mothers. They're not trying to be with them in the long run, but they'll fuck them all right. You know, I mean, hell, you get single mothers, and that's another thing. Single mothers try to act like they're all looking for a relationship and everything. That's not true. Some single mothers, their schedules are so crazy and everything else. They're just trying to, especially if they're still relatively young, a lot of them are just trying to get their back blown out. They're stressed from raising children. They're stressed from work. They're stressed from doing everything by themselves. Truth be told, a lot of single mothers, you can't get a better sexual experience than a single mother if you can get past the anxiety of the fact that you see her as sexually irresponsible, and if the condom breaks or something happens or slips off in her or something like that, you don't have this peace of mind that she's not going to have that child. Okay, so like when I'm out there and I'm messing with childless women, that have goals, have things that they want to do and accomplish and things like that, I'm not worried about her getting pregnant, because I know that she's just as worried about getting pregnant and becoming a parent unprepared, with a child as I am, right? She's just as like, hey, I ain't signing for all this. I just trying to get my jollies off. You know what I'm saying? Like, that, you can, man, I can go buck wild in a childless woman, because I'm not worried that she's going to, again, that there's no evidence that of that sort of, sexual irresponsibility. There's no evidence of that. I don't have to worry about her going and saying, well, I'm gonna have this baby, I'm gonna keep this baby. I don't have to worry about that. But with a single mother, oh, don't let them catch whiff to the fact that you think that you're better than they are, or that you think that you're just gonna come in there and hit it and quit it until you get tired of it. No, they will fuck your shit up. Hell, they've already had a baby. Them having another baby ain't nothing to them. But them having your baby is world and life altering for you. And trust me, there's a lot of women out here that will intentionally try to bring you down to their level. This nigga think he better than me, I'm gonna have this baby. So for me, there's always a anxiety. And I'm saying, I've only done it a couple times, but I'm saying it's there's too much of a sexual anxiety that goes on with dealing with a single mother, because there's no, you can't just enjoy the sex. There's no guarantee that she's going to abort that baby, or she's going to take the necessary precautions to not become pregnant. Because again, her having another baby, that ain't nothing to her, but it's something to you. So, I say don't deal with single mothers, period. Do not deal with them. It's not worth the stress. It's not worth the anxiety. And on top of that, it's like you got to look at also what you're reinforcing. You hear these women talking. They come on the show talking about how, my mother she was never single. I was always able to get men. But you couldn't keep a man. You couldn't get a man to put a ring on your finger. See, these women mistake sexual interest for genuine interest. And they don't get that. They can't separate the two. Well, I can get a man, or they think that being fucked by a high value man equates to them being high value because they're being fucked by high value men. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to, present or provide any excuses for men dealing with single mothers and helping to facilitate and reinforce these sort of ideas in the community. Because at the end of the day, it simply shouldn't be done. I know that men are going to go out there and do it. Men are not going to throw away a bad bitch. And what women need to understand is that when it comes to single mothers, a lot of men are trying to extract that child, the last remnants of that childless woman out of a woman before she starts really looking like a mom, until she starts really looking like, an older woman. We got a lot of young mothers in the community. You got women, I saw some girl in the news. She was 19. She got killed by her significant other or whatever it was. And I'm like, 19 and you a mother at 19? That means, like again, she's not even allowed in the bars. That means she's got to go through being 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, you know what I'm saying? Like 26, 27, right? Before she even begins to crack, even begins to show crow's feet or whatever, which black women typically don't show, you know. So, and that makes it even worse for sisters, because all of this melanin, prevents black women from aging. And so you got a lot of black women out here that'll look good in, longer than, let's say, the non-black women that are out here. If they maintain their weight, they'll be out here looking good, looking like, what's her name? Bernice Burgess or whatever her name is, looking good. And a lot of men are not going to throw that out. That doesn't mean that they want to deal with the whole situation. They don't want the whole truckload, but they're trying to extract that fine ass bitch, that is still there, that's right in front of them. They're trying to milk that cow for all they can. And that's why you see, the type of confusion, additionally, among other things, that you see out here when it comes to these, these sort of single mothers. Like, I want to see today, like, when it comes to these women not getting with men that have children, I really want to see today that one of these women with children shit on a man with children. We are not our mistakes. Okay, is he his mistakes? I just don't understand why these women are not trying to deal with men who have children. You have children. He has children. What's the problem? They all believe themselves to be entitled to childless men. And it's just like, no. And men are doing the right thing by putting their foot down. And see, this goes into the whole, sacrificing one to save the many. You know what I'm saying? I do believe that a single mother should be slammed. Absolutely fucking slammed. She's one of these just baby mamas in order to save a bunch of 16-year-old black girls, from following down her path. I want the late high schooler, black girls to recognize, like, this isn't something that you want to do. This isn't a path that you should go down. Fuck all this corrective, a course correction. Fuck all that. Okay. The whole idea is to not make the wrong turn to begin with. That's the whole idea. This whole aspect of, we need to eliminate all forms of shame, and man, fuck that. At the end of the day, the issue with single mothers really comes down to the cost, that childless men are being hit with. And no amount of shame is going to make that cost change. We don't get anything out of raising another man's child. Just the same way as I'm saying these men shouldn't be dealing with single mothers. I'm saying in raising another man's child, especially if he was an unproductive man, that's some cowbird shit. If you don't know what a cowbird is, go look up the cowbird. The cowbird is a parasitic bird that drops its eggs off in other birds' nests and get the other birds who may not recognize that the egg is not their own egg to basically invest in the cowbird's offspring. And what's so fucked up about the cowbird is not only is the cowbird big, like it's a bigger egg than all the other birds, okay? The cowbird's mouth is also bigger, so when the mother comes back to feed her offspring, she oftentimes won't even see her own offspring. What she will see, or what he will see, the father bird or whatever, is just this big ass cowbird's mouth. And they feed the cowbird's mouth believing that they're feeding their own offspring when they're not. They're feeding a parasitic bird. Not to mention, when the cowbird hatches, it has a instinctual reflex where it just begins to kick and kick, because the gestation of the cowbird is much shorter than the gestation of the birds that it parasitizes, right? And so it just begins to kick, and it will kick the other eggs or the other chicks, if they are hatched, out of the nest. So those chicks die. But the cowbird gets to sit there, mama, mama, feed me. Feed me. I mean, the cowbird is the ultimate Ray Ray and Pookie in the animal kingdom. Hey, I'm not going to sit here and waste time raising my own birds. I'll just drop my egg off in somebody else's nest and be the fuck out and just go out here and have fun and procreate and everything else. But I ain't going to be raising these kids, man. Fuck that. I'm just going to drop this egg off, you know, in the other bird's nest. Like, what are you? No. See, the problem is the single motherhood situation is at epidemic levels right now. It is 2020. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't believe that. I mean, we knew about how fucked up this shit was in the early 2000s. And I'm saying it's 2020. And yet and still, none of these women know anything about the pitfalls of single motherhood. I'm like, who is not conveying the information? Seems like women are not conveying the information. And so the only ones left to convey the information are the young men. Not even the biological, not even the fathers or the stepdads. I mean, the biological fathers should be doing it, but if they're not around, obviously they're not doing it. And then on top of that, you got the stepdads who are, unfortunately in a bitch ass position where they're not going to say nothing. They're not going to tell the truth. I mean, I dealt with that, myself, in this woman's kitchen, because I know her daughter, and it's like, she's up there talking about we don't talk about stepchildren around here. I was like, really? We don't talk about stepchildren around here? Like, the hairs on the back of my neck went up, but I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to disrespect, in her own house. But I was like, this is some bullshit. You know what I mean? And I'm saying, her marriage has some rough patches because, the father who came through, did everything, raised the kids, all this other stuff, and he didn't get the woman that he wanted. And so that's affecting their marriage. But yeah, I remember that day. We don't talk about stepchildren around here. Man, I could have went the fuck off. And I'm saying, notice if this mother is saying that, I'm like, what are the daughters learning? What are they learning if that's her orientation? That, don't talk about that. There ain't no shame here. And we don't talk about shame here. All these children, men are interchangeable, and all these men, they can raise, different women and different children and whatnot. I'm like, nah, man, nah. That's going on for entirely too long. And men and young black men are well within their rights, especially the childless ones, well within their rights to slam the fuck out of these sort of ideas that these women are perpetuating in the community, with all this, women, are empowered and we're going, women should be able to do whatever the hell they want to do. Yeah, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, but not on my dime. Not on my dime and not on my time. Plain and simple. And so, I just wanted to make this video. I have the other video that I did, and the title of it was, what about the single fathers? Because again, I keep asking this question, why is the focus always on these childless men? Sounds to me that, you don't want to deal with the burden of responsibility that some other man has, but you expect that man or this cohort of men to deal with your situation. No. I mean, and Kevin appropriately, he laid it out. Guys going to school, getting their act together, getting their finances in order and all this other stuff, only to come out here and deal with, a situation that is ultimately not beneficial to them. It's a burden. It's a liability. It brings no benefit whatsoever. No matter how many ways the women try to spell it, and talk about with the spirituality and the fuzzy warm feeling that you get with making a bond with a child. No, first off, that makes it even worse. As the the bald white guy, the bachelor dude, he talked about this in his MGTOW video, where there's a video floating around the internet called "Don't Date Single Mothers," and one of the most powerful parts that he talked about is oftentimes it's double or triple or quadruple the heartbreak. Because if you get with a single mother and the situation doesn't work and you've made a bond with those children, which Cap, already did, then you end up with a situation where not only are you breaking up with the mother, but you're breaking up with all of those children. Why bring that into your life? Cap broke up with a woman because she was acting crazy. She had 3 children. And on the girl's 18th birthday, she called Cap and asked him, why did he leave? And he couldn't help but feel bad about it. But the mother, she was batshit crazy. And Cap, he was out. And those children had made a bond with him. Cap, he did all type of shit. Did stuff with them that their biological father never did. Took them to Niagara Falls and all that shit. And they remembered that. Her especially. But she was mad. She was pissed off. Like, she had made this bond with him, and then one day he just disappeared and he was just gone. And he feels bad about that, even though originally he came in there trying to do the right thing. But see, the thing is that to that single mother, she was trying to lock him down and get him to sign on the dotted line, and was trying to get him to have another baby with her. And he was like, I'm not going to do that. See, Cap always left himself eggs. I called him out on it one day. I was like, of the single mothers, all these stories you keep telling me about single mothers, I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, you never signed on the dotted line. And he had to admit to me one day, he was like, you're right, I never did sign on the dotted line. And that's what she was trying to get him to do. Because then she would have her claws in him once she had a baby by him. But Cat was like, nah, chick, you already got 3. Let's focus on the 3 that you got. But that wasn't good enough for her. She needed Cap to inseminate her and have a 4th child. And Cap was like, I'm not doing that. And so, she actually ended up making up a lie and said that she missed her period, and Cap was running around freaking the fuck out. And turns out the whole thing was a lie. And she admitted that it was a lie. She lied and said that she got pregnant because she wanted to see how he would respond and how he would react. And he was taking the necessary precautions. He was, doing all the right stuff, but he really didn't want to be with her. And then, finally it dawned on her that he really didn't want to be with her like that. Because she had just done a whole bunch of idiot stuff. It's like, hey, we can cruise, we can do this together, we can do that together. He was lonely looking for companionship, but I ain't trying to sign up for all this. I'm helping you with your kids. I'm taking them places, this, that, and third, but I'm not trying to sign on the dotted line. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to become legal owner of all of this responsibility that I did not create. No, hell no. So she made up an elaborate lie to try to, I don't know what specifically she was trying to do, but I think it came down to her really wanting to see how he would react and how he would respond. And after it came out that she lied, he was done. He was completely done. He was out, but those kids, they still remembered him, and him helping them with their homework and all that stuff. They still remembered. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't care what anybody says. Kids need that male energy, and they love that male energy. Especially the boys, because I know a bunch of single mothers that even now, man, I go over there, I better bring my freaking WWE, freaking wrestling belt, because I know they want to wrestle. Soon as I get over there, especially with how big my ass, pick me up, they want me. I'm doing body slams on the fucking couch and shit from the top rope. You know what I mean? They don't get that. They're in a house full of nothing but freaking women and shit like that. They don't get to get all that energy out, especially as a young boy. I'm talking serious body slamming wrestling, people's elbow and everything, and I know because I'm like, they don't get to do this. because there's no man around. Because, the chick in particular that I'm talking about, she went out and literally got with a Dusty. I still, to this day, do not know what the biological father of her child looks like. I don't have a clue. I have no clue what this man looks like. I vaguely hear about him. You know what I mean? And I don't have a heart to ask the boy what he knows about his biological father, because I'm sure at this point, he's old enough to kind of have an semblance and know that this man's not really around. And I'm sure he has his own internalized feelings around that. You know what I'm saying? How come Pete's around? How come Pete comes through? How come Pete, visits me? How come Pete plays with me, but my own biological father doesn't? You know what I mean? So I got to be very careful at even keeping my own distance, from this young man. Y'all don't know what that shit is. Y'all don't know what that shit is like. I remember I was dating this chick. No, actually, no, I'll take that back. I was not dating this chick. I didn't even smash. I didn't even fuck with her. Because she told me that she had some possessive, crazy dude. I didn't even know she had a kid until I went over her place. So I went over her place, and this chick, redonkulous, ginormous ass, like the type of chicks that fucking Big Homie Jay brings on his shows to do his skits with. Ginormous. So I go over there, and she got this little child, and I was already fucked up. She was like, "Oh yeah, I got a kid." I was like, "Really?" And man, this little girl hopped up on my lap. And you know what the woman was sitting there? She was sitting on the couch, on a little whatever chair across from me. And she's like, "Oh my God, she really likes you. She really likes you. She doesn't like anybody." Da, 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 da. I'm like, I know what you're trying to do. This is what I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, chick, I'm already fucked up at the fact that I came in here and you got a goddamn kid. Like, I'm already, like, I was not prepared for that. Okay? I was in a diner with a group of people, and she came up and gave me her number and was like, "Call me." I was like, "Okay, I'll shoot you a call," which is already a bad sign, because when women approach you, it's not really the best sign in the world. It's better when they kind of give you the green light to approach them, throw you a smile or a wink or something like that, because my mind automatically goes to, okay, this chick's, she's a hoe and she wants me to just smash, and she's out to get what she wants because she's physically moved by me. But whatever. I took the little piece of paper and, stuffed it in my pocket. And then, I don't know, one Saturday night I said, I ain't doing shit. Let me see what's up with this chick. So I hit her up, and she was like, "Oh, come through, come over, da 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 da." So I go over there, and, "Oh, my daughter's here, da 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 da." I'm like, her daddy was supposed to pick her up. I'm like, what? Like, we didn't even get that far in the conversation on the phone for me to even, and again, this is when I was much younger. So, like, that wasn't something I was mentally prepared for. Like, I was still in the mindset that, everybody my age was childless, and that was one of my first encounters with, these women with kids. And I was like, I'm already put off. I'm like, can't do nothing with this. And she was, in her kitchen. She had this big, it was like these, like, army fatigue color yoga pants on. The ass was like, pow. It was just like, pow. Like, it was just crazy, right? And, I'm like, yeah, in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, I want to run up in this shit. But I'm going to be honest, man, the whole aspect of her having a kid and the idea of me just running up in it, it just drained all of that. I'm gonna destroy the pussy. It just drained all of that. All that. I'm gonna beat it up. I'm gonna annihilate it. I'm gonna destroy it. I'm gonna kung fu drop it. Like no. I'm gonna Zangief pile drive this motherfucker. Like no. Just all of it just drained from my body. I told you that sexual anxiety ain't no joke when you out here, and you come across a chick that you are physically attracted to. She was attractive. Don't get me wrong. Her ass was so big, and it was so fat, and it was so wide. She had a flat stomach too, but it was like, She was kind of like a cheeseburger away from just being too big for me. Like she was at the upper limits of what I'm willing to deal with. But it still was shapely. It still looked good. And I was still like, man, I'm about to run up in this mom. But then the whole kid thing just ruined it for me. I want the young women to recognize that this shit is not, nobody wants this. You know what I'm saying? You want to be a high value chick. You want men to bend over backwards and not just use you and all this other shit. You know, I'm not saying that there's any guarantees, but I'm saying you have more value as a childless woman than you do as a baby mama, period. Don't let any of these baby mamas come online and try to tell you or tell us differently. That's the reality of the shit. You know, when you're dealing with a childless woman, you're a childless man, you start thinking about serious investment that you can go out here and you can do something with a chick. You know what I mean? And you ain't got to worry about. See, that's another thing. Too many chefs in the kitchen. That doesn't get talked about. What do I mean by too many chefs in the kitchen? If her spouse is not dead, okay? And let's say you get, and then this is one of the reasons why people don't want to deal with other people with kids, because too many chefs in the kitchen, right? So if he's got a kid and he's got a baby mama and she's got a kid and she's got a baby daddy, then, you know, you got to deal with, you got to deal with 4 adults and 2 children, possibly 3 children if they have another child, right? That the couple that's getting together, if they create a new child. So that's 3 children and 4 adults. You see, 3 children, 4 adults. That's too many chefs in the kitchen. And you know how all that shit goes down. You try to discipline the son. Don't be putting your hands on my kid, right? Ain't got nothing to say when you paying for the little motherfucker. Ain't got nothing to say when you buying ice cream sandwiches and shit like that. Ain't got nothing to say when you doing all the fatherly stuff. But the minute you try to discipline the child, oh, it's a fucking problem. Then you got to deal with the dude coming over. Oh, you're doing this. You putting hands on my child. Now he in your home. Now you got to deal with this. You know what I'm saying? Now you got to deal with anytime she gets upset with him because he's not doing something, then she got a bad attitude in the house because she's dealing with 2 different male personalities. Her baby father and you. Maybe you get pissed off one day, y'all get into it, and then she's giving her baby father hell. You know what I'm saying? Then he comes over, you know what I mean? And then he's agitated, you're agitated, you know what I mean? Then there's problems with that, or again, she's agitated now. Now you got to deal with problems with her over agitations that you didn't create, but she's having issues with the baby father, and you got to sit there and listen to the shit. And you saying, man, if I dated a childless woman, I wouldn't have to deal with none of this shit. It would just be me and her. And whatever problems we have is me and her. I don't have to worry about no outside noise coming into the situation and agitating the pot. You see? You know, so you end up with a situation with too many chefs in the kitchen. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these people who already have kids don't want to deal with other people with kids. Because you don't just marry the person, you marry the family. You got to marry, everybody that comes with it. It's already bad enough. No, hold on. I could go. There's more than 4 people in the pot, or 4 adults in the pot. You got you 2, right? The 2 people that are trying to get together that have kids. Then you got your exes, right? So that's 4. Then you got their in-laws, right? So that's 8, right? Like their mother and father, then your mother and father, not going into whether the black community is broken and whether those people are in the picture or not. But I'm saying, so now you got to deal with, So that's 8 people. Yeah, that's 8 people in total that you got to deal with, because you got to deal with the in-laws on both sides, right? Or is that more than 8? Am I doing the right math? Is that more than 8? Because you got to deal with your in-laws. And then you got to deal with their in-laws. No, that's more than 8, because you got to deal with your in-laws. No. Well, I guess you're not technically dealing with your in-laws, but I'm saying you got to deal with the in-laws of the new person that you're with, that you're trying to have this relationship with and form the Brady Bunch with. And then you got to deal with the other set of in-laws of your ex, and the set of in-laws of the in-laws of the ex of your new partner. So you got to deal with his in-laws. So I've then lost track. I'm up to, it's got to be at least 12 people at that point. It's got to be now. So we went from, so if you deal with just you and you're childless and your woman's childless, you're dealing with a maximum of 4 adults, right? No, 6. No, is that 4 adults? 4? No, 6. You're dealing with 6 adults. So it's you, her, and then the 2, pairs of in-laws, right? That's what you're dealing with, right? Where you start talking about split households, and now you got, other people's grandparents and shit. Now you got to split the grandparents. Man, that's a mess. I can't even keep track of it in my own head. That's a mess. Who want to deal with all that? Who is this person? Oh, that's her ex's father. Oh, okay. And let's say he's got a problem with what you're doing, right? You see how messy this gets? This is why all this shit that Aisha talking in patriarchy, and this is just a way to control women, and no, this is a way for shit to not get messy. That's again, I don't understand these women that are trying to argue with, millennia of human, history and evolution. I don't understand people who are trying to argue this shit. You know what I'm saying? Every society in the world has been pretty much monogamous, with the exception of situations where there is war, like what you see with like Islam and whatnot. You got a whole village of women and their husbands went off the war and died, and you have an excess of males. In a situation like that, it makes sense for the men to take on more than one wife. You're gonna let some young childless woman just go to waste. She ain't got nobody to be with. You see? Yeah, that makes sense in a situation where it's like a 2-to-1 ratio of males to females, that the women should take more than one husband. Or the men should take more than one wife, right? But all this, we want to challenge everything and everything. Again, what makes no sense to me is the black community is so messed up right now in terms of our orientation, and yet you got all these people that want to play freaking social experiment. And I'm like, do we look like we're in a position to tinker around, with the dials? Do we look like we're in a position to tinker around with the dials? I could see if we had a kick-ass solid foundation and we were just, hey, let's do like white people and fuck up a good thing. You know what I mean? Like I could see if we were in that position, but we're not in that position. So I'm like, what are you doing? But anyway, I've pretty much conveyed all my points. I just wish Kevin just would have a little bit more patience. You know what I'm saying? And really let these women flesh out their stupid ideas and sit there and say, okay, ma'am. All right. Tell me why it matters that you think it's different. Tell me why it matters that you have to come on here and tell these young men that it's different. Tell me why it matters. And then Kev could, eloquently come in and respond and say, well, ma'am, I hate to inform you, but it still costs the same amount. We're talking about childless men here. Why should they want to deal with this situation and then let her scramble the jets for all the buts? And then dismiss her. But see, Kevin, he gets on that premature shit where he just goes into dismissing them immediately. I'm like, no, she was, this was a perfect opportunity for you to slam the shit out of what she's saying. But instead, he goes and, wants to make a joke out of it and goes to the soundboard. And I'm just like, oh, man. I'm like, no, this needs to be explained out. Look, man, a lot of people out here are not the sharpest tools in the drawer. They can't infer shit like that. You got to break it down to them color by numbers. You got to go into the molecules and the atoms and shit. You know what I mean? And tell them why this is. You got to count out the electrons and the protons and whatnot. You can't just sit there and just assume people know, oh, this woman's full of shit and just move on and dismiss. I'm like, nah, this shit needs to be spelled out. And again, not for the women calling the show. It's not for the women calling the show. It's for the younger young black people out here, male or female, to know what time it is, because these black elders and these black elders and the people that came before us, they were too busy trying to cover their own asses and hide from shame, that they didn't tell anybody the truth. And unfortunately, many people walked into those pitfalls and walked into those hazards because they were not given the proper information, and that needs to stop. So anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.